Xxvii podcast, the second coming. One of your hosts. I don't know, COVID-19 on lockdown.
Yes,
I
that's for
think
sure.
I think we're all the same person at this point.
That's
I had
true.
allergy tests yesterday. I look like a meth addict
You got
with all
tracked.
these dots on my arm. So,
Allergies.
yeah, that's what we like to tell them. Allergies.
That's
No.
yeah. Hey, Steve! Congrats on the new grandbaby.
Yes. Steve had his 700th grandchild yesterday. Nice and healthy baby boy. Congratulations on that. So this week's episode, we are here to finally do the Badlands album. Yeah.
Nice.
Could not wait to finally listen to this album. It's one of those that I've always wanted to, sit and give a proper listen. I've been trying to find it on vinyl forever. I can never run across it. I haven't thought about just getting online and trying to order it or anything, but I did run across the cassette version at a Goodwill a while back, so listen to that, and man, I tell you, it was a breath of fresh air. I'll put it that way, compared to last week. So probably from now on, since we're doing them live, we're not probably going to have too many comments on the YouTube side of things, because pretty much all you guys that usually comment are on these live episodes now in general. So probably no really need for like a comment, recap anymore. We just pretty much will cover the polls and all that, and we have been getting a lot of feedback on all these polls and some good comments on those sides. So we can go ahead and run through that stuff, as hopefully some more people are going to come in, and we'll get rolling.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been very interesting to see some of the comments on these polls, just for the sake of how much it exemplifies the whole "there's something in music for everyone." You know what I mean? It's crazy how many songs I personally love, Kiss songs, that people are on there just absolutely trashing.
Yeah, yeah.
Songs that I thought were both okay songs, people are on there saying both of these songs suck. On the other side of that, there were several people who, in our last week's poll for Hot and Cold versus Deuce, several people voted for Hot and Cold. I mean,
Surprising.
I know, right? It's just, there really is something for everyone. You just can't account for taste.
I want to know the reasons behind that, or if they were just doing it to do it, just to try to, be different.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and find. There was at least one person who actually said something about it, but I don't know if we got too many other people that voted, commented something other than, "Why is this even one of the polls?"
Digging from the bottom of the barrel.
Yes, yeah. So it's probably worth mentioning every week, guys, that these polls are completely randomly generated.
Yep.
That's why some of them seem really weird, like Hot and Cold versus Deuce.
Yeah, apparently, as much as we say it doesn't, reverberate into people's brains, I guess. So yeah, we just have to say it every week now.
Yeah. Must have been on one of the shares into the Kiss room. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find that.
There was some more really good ones this week, let alone the last week ones. But I mean, some tough decisions there.
Oh yes, very much. So let's talk about last week's real quick. So the weird ones that I posted on a Tuesday, as I suspected, they changed just very slightly, but not very much. Not enough to change any of the winners. So we can skip those. We talked about those in last week's live show. Trying to remember which ones I posted. Okay, here they are. Okay, so last week, on Friday, we posted 6. We are going to start posting 6 matchups every week now until the end of round 1, so that, we get done with round 1 at some point this year. So matchup number 1 for last week was Tomorrow versus Tossin' and Turnin'. I was curious to see how that one would turn out. Tomorrow absolutely crushed that one with 82% of the vote. We also had Hot and Cold versus Deuce. No surprise there. Deuce wins that one with 96% of the vote. Now, interestingly, that does not make Hot and Cold our lowest voted song. It is currently tied with I Finally Found My Way, which is kind of an interesting.
Yeah, maybe the most surprising thing about that was people actually voted for that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that on our main page. That one ended up with 207 overall votes, that poll. And 8 of those people voted for Hot and Cold. One of those people being Aaron Philpott, a good friend who usually jumps in here and comments. So, Aaron, what's up, man? We want to hear. We
Yeah.
want to hear. But yeah, 199 people voted for Deuce. So, and I'm genuinely surprised at that point. I actually truly believed that Hot and Cold would get 0 votes. I really truly believed that was going to be the outcome of that.
Yeah.
Which sucks because, as we've talked about on the show, anytime we've talked about Sonic Boom, I don't mind Sonic Boom. I kind of like that song even. So it was just because it was up against Deuce, you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Hot and Cold's not a bad song. There are some decent things on there.
Right.
But again, that's what makes the Kiss Army so awesome, man. Everyone's got those different flavors and the what they like and don't like, or
Yeah.
so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
We also posted Kissin' Time versus I'm Gonna Love You, another one I was very curious about since it seems like the majority of people don't care for Kissin' Time either.
DA
Okay.
Neely says somebody actually voted for I Finally Found My Way.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, yes.
I don't remember what that one ended up against when we did that. So in Kissin' Time versus I'm Gonna Love You, Kissin' Time did win that one with 71% of that vote.
Yeah, that one's kind of 50-50 for me. It's like I do kind of give the edge to Kissing Time, but I'm Gonna Love You isn't really a bad song.
Right, right. There are a few on the Peter album that I do actually like, and
Yeah.
that one and Papa, that's the kind of sugar Papa likes are both.
Yeah, I used to listen to like one song maybe or two at the most off of that, but now, yeah, I could probably pick at least a handful of songs that I do really like off of that album.
Yeah, yeah.
Kissing Time.
No.
No.
That's funny. By the way, Finally Found My Way was up against Speeding Back to My Baby.
And people voted for Finally Found. It was probably Aaron again, wasn't it?
Probably.
Where you at, Aaron?
Yes. And then now when I posted that Kissin' Time I'm Gonna Love You, you said I'm Gonna Love You is one of your favorite Peter Chris songs too, wasn't it?
No, that's the kind of sugar Papa likes. Is
Oh.
my favorite.
Okay, I
Peter
must have
Chris song.
misunderstood that. So that was the next poll.
It looked like you guys both spoken to each of my ears when you turned your heads like that.
That's funny.
We were speaking to you, Eli.
Yeah.
It was just a careless whisper.
Yes. The fourth poll that we posted last week was I Love It Loud versus That's the Kind of Sugar Papa Likes. So much as I do like that kind of sugar, I Love It Loud. Come on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I've heard people that say they can't stand I Love It Loud. So again, it's like,
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, to me, that's like Rock and Roll All Night. It never gets old to me.
Yep.
There's something about that studio version, especially that of I Love It Loud, that's just, it's so powerful, man. And
Right.
again, I don't want to go on again about the video, but God, the video is so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, there were people in the comments talking about how they like That's the Kind of Sugar Papa likes more than I Love It Loud because I Love It Loud is overplayed and
Yeah.
it doesn't have enough substance. I saw one person say just an interesting, very interesting, eye-opening. Speaking of eye-opening, our fifth post from last week was Rock and Roll All Night versus Take Me Away Together as One. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention. I Love It Loud did win that one with 88% of the vote. Forgot to throw that in there. Rock and Roll All Night won that one, but with 66% of the vote, which to me, being that that's Rock and Roll All Night, that's a scrape by victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me curious, like, had it had been, like, say, the Alive version, how different would those numbers probably look?
Right. Right. And we didn't include any of the live versions in any of
Right,
these polls. These are only studio versions. So yeah, very
right.
interesting to see that one just barely scraped by.
Maybe way down the road when we're done with this, maybe we can do one that's all the live, like from the Alive albums or something.
Definitely, yeah. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Our final poll from last week was I'm Alive versus Mr. Make Believe, which may have been the most interesting one just because they're both songs that people don't normally talk about.
I love Mr. Make Believe.
Right, yeah, no, that was really hard for me because I love both of those songs. I've always felt I'm Alive is really underrated from
Hmm.
Asylum. I'm Alive did win that one, but only with 53%, so it was very close.
Wow, yeah. See, going back to the Gene episode, like, I can remember because every time I hear Mr. Make Believe now, I just can't help but think of Abner Devereaux. Like, to me, that song is just like his unofficial theme song. Like, it just, I can't help but think of it every time I hear that song.
Yeah, yep. However, I will also say, looking forward to round two, we can all kiss "I'm Alive" goodbye because it's going up against "Rock and Roll All Night." So I mean,
Could it pull out a shocker though?
I mean, it could.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I would be disappointed. I would be surprised.
yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people probably think Rock and Roll All Night is going to win the whole entire thing, but
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So this week's polls, and you can, excuse me, I had to burp there. You can jump over and vote on these right now. They were posted yesterday, so they've got
and guess
a
what?
little.
These were random too.
They were random. Yeah. Yes. So naturally, since we posted them almost 24 hours ago, we are getting several. Are you kidding me? Why even post these two?
Scraping the barrel.
Yeah, they're all random. They're all random. Okay, so the six we posted this week, Psycho Circus versus Plaster Caster was the first.
Tough.
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very tough. Um,
I had to edge with Psycho Circus though.
I don't remember which one of those I voted for. Now, yeah, Plaster Caster is one of my favorite of the 70s songs, just completely overall. So I may have gone with that one.
But Psycho Circus to me is one of those that doesn't translate well live, and something about that album version is just so magical, especially that intro, the circus thing, and just I had to edge it out as much as I love Plaster Caster.
Yes. Which one did you go for there?
Psycho Circus.
Uh,
For the same reason.
yeah. Interesting matchup, but in a different way. Odyssey versus In the Mirror. So that's The Elder versus Carnival of Souls. I thought was an interesting.
Last I looked, it looked like Odyssey was winning pretty big, unless it's changed by now.
I think you're right. Yeah, and I think I went for Odyssey on that one just because I don't dislike In the Mirror, but it's definitely. I'd say it's probably the lowest on Carnival of Souls for me, other than maybe I Walk Alone.
Yeah, yeah.
We also had, and this is another one that was super difficult for me, King of Hearts versus A Million to One. Oh, Savannah's just pulled it up. Odyssey's just barely winning.
Oh, so it's definitely, because when I looked the other day, it seemed like it was like 60 to, God, I don't even know, but it seemed like it was winning by quite a big margin the other day.
Right now it's at 56%.
Wow.
So that'll be interesting to see how that comes out.
Yes.
It's right now, I believe A Million to One is crushing.
And it is, thankfully.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people do not like King of Hearts, which surprised me. That's one of my favorites from Hot in the Shade. So.
Well, how are you going to put it up against A Million to One? Like,
yeah.
I think someone might have commented on that one, but I think a lot of it has to do with Hot in the Shade in general.
Right.
It's another one of them things where people base it off the album that it's on, and Hot in the Shade gets a lot of hate for some reason. And
yeah, that was That was surprising. I think I voted for 1,000,000 to 1 on that one too, but I was hoping that King of Hearts wouldn't get crushed. But
Yeah.
I
another,
was, just because it's my favorite Kiss song. 1,000,000 to 1 is my favorite Kiss song, so I'm happy.
yes. Another super difficult one for me. Fits Like a Glove versus Two Sides of the Coin.
Yeah, that was the other one. As much as I love Two Sides, Fits Like a Glove it's up there, probably in my top 10 right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for this one I voted on Two Sides of the Coin. Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
pretty sure
read it.
you voted for Fits Like a Glove.
No, I didn't. I voted for Two Sides because I'm not a huge Ace
Oh,
fan.
that's right.
But that is my favorite Ace
Yeah,
song.
That's
So
right. I remember
I
that
thought,
now.
how often am I going to vote for Ace? I might as well throw it to him once. You
Yeah.
know.
Right.
Yep.
Then next week it ends up being like 2 matches of all Ace songs or something.
Right. So, huh. I don't think I can rightly read that comment.
So DA says, every morning I hit random play on my phone, Kiss songs, and just for the fun of it, pretend that the first 2 songs it plays is a message for how my day is going to go. This morning I got You Make Me Rock Hard and Rise to It. So
How
that
is
was
my
my
day?
day today.
Oh my god.
Huh.
Oh, Lord.
Gonna
That's
have an
amazing.
interesting day there. Oh,
I think we
and
need to ask your mom more than that. How was the day?
Yeah.
yes. Oh man. So our last matchup for this week was a little bit easier for me. You Love Me to Hate You versus Getaway. And now You Love Me to Hate You is my least favorite song on Hot in the Shade, so that one
Okay.
was not difficult for me at all.
I was
And
going to
it's
say.
losing by a lot right now.
Getaway is winning?
Getaway is winning by
Cool.
81%.
I don't think too many Peter songs have popped up so far on this. Like I don't recall. Have we had Black Diamond yet? I don't recall.
I'm feeling like we did. I'm looking now because I don't remember.
Stuff like Mainline, Hard Luck Woman,
Right.
all that stuff. I don't recall if we've had those yet.
Right. We've had a lot of Peter solo album, but
So we got to make the Peter songs rise to it.
We had Beth.
yeah. Beth lost to Rip It Out.
Oh yeah.
Hard Luck. No, that's not.
No, that's hard to. Oh yeah, Hard Luck Woman
Okay.
beat I Can't Stop the Rain.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we have. I stand corrected.
Yeah, I don't see Black Diamond yet though. Unless
Yeah,
I
I don't.
missed it.
I'm pretty positive we haven't had Black Diamond yet.
Mm-mm.
I'm curious now what that's. What in the world is that going to have to go up against?
The street giveth and the street taketh away.
Oh,
That's going to be tough too. But Black Diamond, I'm going to say Black Diamond could even be the kind of surprise winner of the whole thing.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I guess maybe I shouldn't really say a surprise, but let's just say the least expected. I guess.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, yeah, I'd say it's still fairly likely that it ends up being Rock and Roll All Night or Detroit Rock City, or, something like that.
Kissing time.
Yeah. That would be interesting. So that pretty much does it for polls, and yeah, at this moment there aren't any comments on last week's episode other than the stuff that happened live. So
I'll tell you what. Spoke with Javier Boster. I don't think he's here yet, as far as I know. But he really kind of set the bar for this album. On top of just being excited to listen to it, he told me that, in his opinion, this might be the best album out of this whole entire list that we're doing on Second Coming. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty big statement compared to a lot of the stuff that's on here.
strong words, yeah.
So that really kind of set the bar for my listening too. And I was very pleasantly entertained with it, but I don't know. I don't know if I could say it's the best one, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah, definitely agreed there. So a little bit of info then.
Yep.
Oh, we got another comment. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
If I had a band that has been around for decades, I might be disappointed if the number one rated song turned out to be something from the first album.
Yeah.
True.
I
Yeah.
always feel bad for Boston because of that.
You're right.
I
Yeah.
think More Than a Feeling is song
And
one, CD
I was gonna
one.
say, isn't that the very first song in there too?
Yeah,
Downhill from there.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's the thing with Kiss though. I mean, it's almost like I don't want to say every album, but pretty much all the '70s albums. Let's at least put it with the '70s. Every '70s album has at least one song on there, in my opinion, that could easily be named the best Kiss song of all
Yeah.
time. And that and just to pick one is hard enough off of each of those albums. But I mean, yeah, it's just the massive catalog and.
Yeah.
But see, it's like with the Beatles. I wouldn't pick anything off of their first album to
No,
be
definitely.
and again, not that there was anything bad on it, but to me, none of that stuff on there would be like the best Beatles song in history, in my opinion. Had we have
Right.
been doing that,
Right. That is kind of an interesting idea for everything. What? Yeah. Hey, we just got Sam in here too.
hey
Hi,
Sam,
Sam.
What's up?
hoping Javier pops in because as much as he says he loves this album, I definitely want to hear his input.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, while we've got Steve, if Steve, you're in here, have you got you and Rochelle's votes for this one? I don't know if I missed them somewhere. It's weird not having you guys' votes now.
Yeah.
All right, so Badlands is the first studio album by the band of the same name. This album features both Ray Gillen and Eric Singer. Of course, we're doing this because of Eric Singer. They played together in Black Sabbath. So this kind of is an offshoot. If you guys remember, we did Seventh Star several weeks ago, and that was Eric Singer with Glenn Hughes singing. And then when Glenn Hughes left Black Sabbath, they got Ray Gillen. Ray Gillen wrote and demoed several of the songs for The Eternal Idol, which is another Black Sabbath album we did a few weeks ago. Ray ended up not staying with the band and left, and they ended up getting Tony Martin, which, in my opinion, was definitely the right move. Turns out Ray actually took Eric Singer with him. Now, Eric played on The Eternal Idol, but he did not tour because he left Black Sabbath to be in Badlands.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This album also features guitarist Jake E. Lee, which is the famous guitarist that replaced Randy Rhoads in Ozzy's solo band.
He was an apprentice of Randy as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
Also, and I don't have any idea how to pronounce this bass player's last name, Greg Chason.
Oh, yeah, that was
Oh,
close
yeah.
enough. Chasen.
Yeah, something like that. Now he was also he was in a lot of different stuff. He was in Ozzy's band, I think, with Jake E. Lee, even.
Oh, was he?
I think.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with his names. I was wondering where he came from.
Right. Yeah. Definitely check out his Wikipedia page, guys. He's been on a ton of albums. I'm not recognizing a whole lot more. He was on a Pat Travers album.
Ah,
You know what? I'm recognizing he was on two Die Happy albums and also a Red Sea albums. Aren't those guys that are signed to Rox Records?
yeah, yeah. They just reissued one of those happy whatever that was called.
Die happy.
Well,
Die Happy.
that's the strangest thing I've ever seen. That's not a
Yeah.
connection I was expecting to make.
Yeah, they
Cool.
put it on like a pretty cool like blue vinyl or something. That's the main reason that sticks in my head. But
Yeah. Very
so
interesting. Oh,
so I agree with your dad. Da says he'd like to see a poll like this, but for the Beatles. That would be a cool little thing to do on the side
it would.
at
Yeah.
some point.
Have to put that together. Also, I got Steve and Rochelle's picks right here.
Awesome.
So
Now we feel almost complete.
yes. Okay, so finishing up the album info real quick. This album was released May 11th, 1989, so right around the time Hot in the Shade came out. This was recorded throughout October 1988 and up through January of 1989. recorded in one-on-one studios in LA and also the record plant in New York. Crazy. This album was also produced by Paul O'Neill, who was heavily involved with Sabotage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is a kind of a cool connection there too. Of course, we've got the four people mentioned as personnel: Ray Gillen on lead vocals and harmonica. I don't think I heard harmonica.
I don't recall
it
that
might have
either.
been during Rumbling Train. That was that jazzy one.
Okay.
That it
Oh,
was during that one.
We've also got Jake E. Lee on guitars, mandolin, sitar, and keyboards.
Sitar.
Yeah.
Yes.
that
That's
was
awesome.
cool, man. That was cool.
Yeah. Greg Chason or Chison, whatever that is, on bass, and Eric Singer on the drums. We also have Teso Karras, who played tambourine and maracas, and Bob Kinkle, who did keyboard programming.
Kinkle.
Kinkle.
Yeah. We do have the single for this album was Dreams in the Dark with the B-side Hard Driver. And this got to 39 on the, that's the UK charts there, and 57 on the Billboard 200 in the US. So, very interesting that this album has chart information when several of the other ones we've done recently didn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is, basically a super group. I mean, maybe not as known these days as those guys were at this time. I'm sure it was a little bit bigger deal then.
Right.
But, it's... Go ahead.
I was reading comments on the YouTube videos where we were finding some of these songs, and apparently they did a pretty hefty tour for this album, and a lot of people were saying that they saw them on the tour and that they blew the headlining acts away.
Oh, I can imagine, man.
Wow.
Especially with Jake E. Lee, my God.
Right. Let me see if I can find, the one comment that I'm thinking of actually said who the headliners were. And it was people that, it's like, man, if they blew those guys away.
Well, he's looking for that. I was talking to my mom a while ago, and her very first concert was Dokken opening up for Kiss.
No kidding.
I would have loved to have seen that.
What year was that?
Oh, gosh. 80. Oh, it was in the 80s.
Probably Animalized Tour, possibly.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
would have been it.
Yep. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yes.
That would have been so cool.
Wow.
Okay, here it is. So I guess it wasn't quite what I was thinking. Great White and Tesla they opened for in 1989.
Wow. I mean, both are pretty good quality bands, but I could see Badlands blowing them off the stage.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, so right now we've got Steve and Rochelle McGowan's picks in there. Of course, any of you watching can check out the comments right now to see their full list. I'm going to go ahead and add them to the list. Steve's given this album an 8 out of 10 overall. His top 3 are Streets Cry Freedom, Hard Driver, and Winter's Call. And I'm going to go ahead and add these in. I forgot to ask you before we got this thing started. We are going to talk about Ball and Chain, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because it's technically a bonus track, but it was a bonus track on the cassette and CD version, so I assume it just wasn't on the vinyl and that was it.
Correct, yes. Yeah, because I know it was like you just said, it's definitely on the cassette, and then I realized I actually have it on the computer too. I don't know why I didn't just listen to it that way, but it's on that version as well, so which I'm glad we are including, so that was a really cool song.
Definitely, yeah. Let me real quick finish putting Steve's in here. Hard Driver and Winter's Call. Okay, and then Rochelle gave this album a 9 out of 10. I'd say it's safe to say Steve and Rochelle both agree with Javier that this one was one of the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Her top 3 were Streets Cry Freedom, Ball and Chain, and Dreams in the Dark.
Anyone else that's in here too, if you guys have heard this album, let us know your thoughts as well. What's your overall ranking of it, or your top 3?
Definitely.
Steve says, first time listening to the album as well. I was really surprised how good this album was. I only knew the 3 songs off the album, that they made the videos for going into this. Had a hard time ranking the songs on this one. I kind of did too. I agree. And I've actually never seen any of the music videos they've done, so I'm going to have to look those up as well.
Yep.
Maybe even try to find like a full show if there's anything on YouTube or something.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We ready to start it?
Yep.
All right. So also notice that for whatever reason, each side of the album, side one is called East Side, the other side is West Side. So starting off East Side, track number one, we have High Wire, and this is my number 3. And man, I already love the way this album is starting off. Killer riffs, great production. That kick drum just thumps you right in the chest. Turn it up loud. Ray Gillen's vocals already taking the spotlight on this song right off the bat. Great guitar solo from the legendary J.K. Lee. And, this first song already, has me feeling much better after last week's album as a whole. Just this one song already is like a whole breath of fresh air, but just a really killer opener.
Yep. This was my number 5. It's a very strong opening. There was lots of energy to it, which is always good when when you're first listening to an album that you've never heard before. Strong solos, and the overall beat was really good. And I love Ray's voice. He just has a lot of passion when he sings, which is, I always enjoy that. So, yeah, for the opening song, it was so much better than last week, for sure.
High Wire was number 7 for me. Interesting production. I would like to hear this album kind of for real rather than with YouTube compression. I don't know how much that would have hurt it, but it wasn't bad the way we were listening to it, but I think I expected a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I can at least hear the bass, which is, of course, that's kind of the main. If I pop an album on and I can't hear the bass, production sucks. Talking to you, and Justice for All. This actually kind of
Ooh, shots fired.
This actually kind of reminds me of something Black Sabbath might have put out around this time, which I thought was interesting. Just kind of this first song had that feel, and then this started several trends that for me for this album. One of which was I really enjoyed the rhythm part behind the guitar solo.
Yeah,
just the groove of it was really cool. Of course, the guitar solo goes without saying. Amazing.
Yeah.
I liked the song a little bit more as it picked up near the end. The other trend that this song started was me being a little bit unsure about Ray Gillen's voice.
Wasn't a big fan of it, huh?
Not at all.
Interesting. So we go on to track number 2, Dreams in the Dark. This is my number 10. Felt like a fairly short song here. I'm not sure why I looked, and it was actually close, almost a 4-minute song, but I don't know. It just felt short to me for some reason. But it was just a good old fashioned, straightforward rock and roll song, man. And again, it was just nice to hear that. Like that's kind of what I wanted to hear with last week's album, and then finally getting it on this. And again, just really, really dug the groove throughout this whole track. And again, this is number 10. It's another case kind of where we just kind of have to throw numbers on these songs, and it doesn't mean, I hate the song just because it's number 10. It's just how we have to rank them, unfortunately. So,
yep.
But yeah, just really, really enjoying the album so far already.
This was my number 3. I love this song. I just didn't know that was the title of the song. I've heard this song numerous times.
Oh, really?
Had no idea. I feel like Ray has this like David Coverdale Dio likeness to his voice, and I put in this song, but really, through the whole album, he just kind of has that same kind of tone and likeness. And it's just one of those songs that you can't help but sing with, and just all around, it's just a great groovy jam.
Number 6 for me on this one. Yeah, I remember we talked about when this song came on, right when it starts, it almost doesn't sound like the same singer for a
Yeah.
second.
Hmm.
A little bit different, yeah.
Is interesting. His low to mid range sounds totally different than his high range.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, I really like Jakey Lee's playing and guitar tone on this. This is the song where the tone just really hit me square in the jaw. I really like that. It made me realize, man, I haven't listened to anything that Jakey Lee played in forever. I may have heard Ultimate Sin once, the album that he did with Ozzy forever ago, and this was kind of a nice reminder that the guy is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I like this song, but this one started yet another trend for me, which was me feeling like it could have benefited more from harmony vocals.
Yeah, I agree. But, Gillen definitely does show, some range, but probably could have used harmonies. I agree.
Yeah.
Next is Jade's song. This is actually just kind of a little seg. But I tell you what, man, it's my number 4. It's just an absolutely beautiful acoustic piece, which, like I just said, segs into the next track. Immediately, this had me thinking of Randy Rhoads' D. Not a big surprise knowing the history there. Just again, I keep saying, but a nice breath of fresh air with this piece. It was short, but so very powerful in its own way. Just a fantastic acoustic piece. I love hearing that kind of stuff.
Yep, this was my number 4 as well. It's very melodic. It's very heartfelt. It makes me think of like being outside, laying in the grass in the summertime, just kind of watching the breeze go through the trees, watching clouds overhead. Just kind of reveling in the emotion behind it.
Mhm.
I loved it. I was like, I wish I was outside right now, laying in the grass, just with
Yeah, I mean,
headphones, just enjoying
yeah,
it.
like more so with everything going on now. It's one of them songs that just it makes you want to be out in nature and just enjoying it, and
Yep.
everything's okay. That type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Now this one was my number 8, but the only reason that it's low for me is that I wish it had been longer.
Hmm.
It When it cut off,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it, and it kind of, because yeah,
Yeah.
everything you guys said, absolutely. I loved the acoustic tone. It was relaxing. See, it's interesting that you would say something about feeling like you ought to be laying outside, because I was thinking like I could fall asleep to this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's relaxing, but
Just
yeah, then
napping in the sun.
it just kind of it irked me a little when it ended.
Yeah.
So, so like we say, that segs right into Winter's Call, and this is number 9 for me. So this one kind of continues the kind of mellow feel. It starts off that way, excuse me, but then it kind of kicks into what I thought kind of had a Zeppelin sound to it. Just the whole groove of the drums and guitar, and even the way Gillen was singing the song, it just kind of had that Zeppelin feel. Another fantastic solo here, and this is where I love the added touch of the electric sitar. I was kind of one of them things that kind of totally caught me off guard. Wasn't expecting to hear that in there, and it was just kind of a cool little thing to throw in there for the feel. And then of course when Eric goes into those constant kicks, kind of towards the end there, man, it really gets the walls shaking, watching the speakers bounce. It's like, oh man, those kick drums just sound so good.
Yep. This was my number 6. Um, and I put that the beginning is very much like the beginning of Jade's song, and for it to be like a seg into it makes sense. His voice is it's very soulful. It's full of emotion, which I always like. I like that you could clearly hear the bass when it came in, and it was great when it came in. It picked up in a great way. I wasn't expecting it to pick up at all. I thought it was just going to be the ballad of the
Hmm.
album, that it was
Right.
going to be slow like the whole time, and then it kicked in with this awesome energy, and I was surprised, but I really liked that the way that they did that, because you didn't hear it coming, like you didn't expect it to all of a sudden kick in and it be this, upbeat, powerful, more powerful song
Yeah.
versus it just being like the ballad of the album, which is what I was expecting. So it was a nice change. I liked it.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me. I liked that it started very similarly to Jade's song, but I kind of feel like they could have found a better way to bridge the songs. Uh, it felt weird that there was still a definitive break, and then like an almost the same riff but with a different tone comes back. I don't know. It threw me off a little bit.
Kind of would have been cool if they would have just kind of continued it
Right.
and didn't break it.
Treat Jade's song almost as an intro to Winter's Call.
Yeah.
That would
Right.
have been better, I think.
Mhm.
But yeah, when everything came in real heavy, really liked it. Still having the acoustic guitars play in the background was a great touch. A great way to bridge both the clean part and the heavy part. And this was another one that I really liked the riff and the feel of the rhythm behind the solo. It's just
Yeah.
like one of my favorite parts for each song on this album was that whatever they were playing behind the guitar solo, which is so
Yeah.
strange.
Just
But
the pocket is so good, like throughout this whole album, man.
yes,
Yep.
and I keep forgetting until you bring it up. See, the bass drums on this album reminded me a lot of Alive 3, which wouldn't have been too long after this. Makes me wonder if it's the same drum set.
It could be.
Yeah.
Like I was literally this close to saying something about Life 3 on one of these songs, like how it had that same. It put me in that mindset of that Creatures, that very first song on there. Just yeah, it might be. It might have been the same because I was looking on the inside of the liner notes here, and it did say that he was playing Pearls at the time, which is the same thing he was playing then too. So could be.
Interesting.
All right. Where are we at here? Dancing on the Edge. Number 6 here for me. Another great rocker, but on this one, I wanted to take the moment to really note Eric's drumming on this album, and especially the song. Obviously, he's definitely doing different stuff on here than what we heard on the Sabbath albums, and then obviously it's different from what he would later go on to do with Even Kiss, and then of course even different from some of his other projects, Alice Cooper, all that stuff. So it again just shows his vast abilities, and how he can adapt to each band and what their sound needs to be. And he's not just one of them drummers that it sounds like he's doing the same thing with every band he plays with. It really shows his talents on this album. But then back to the song though. The only thing, it just had that weird kind of abrupt ending. All of a sudden, it caught me off guard, and then it just kind of goes right into the next track also, which I thought that was a little more unexpected, and I didn't really like the feel of it, versus how Jade's song went into the last one.
Hi, Joel.
Hey, Joel, what's up?
Yep, this one was my number 7. And I mean, I'm liking so far that all the songs have a really good energy to them.
Mhm.
I'm not losing interest because they're kind of like going back and forth as to how they're produced and how they're how they sound. The guitar runs in the chorus are just so cool in this song. They added a different sound to it, but in a great way. And then yeah, that ending, it was unique, and I didn't expect it to end like that for sure. I even looked at Luke and I was like, "Is that the end? Like, did it just end like that?" And then he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay, well, all right." I didn't expect it to end like that for sure.
Yeah. This one was number 5 for me. Yeah, pretty cool drum fill from Eric right when everything came in.
Yeah.
Made me wish there was a bit more stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked the feel. Oh, Steve's signing out. See you later, Steve. Thanks for coming in.
Christine Quarantine. Yes.
That's amazing.
All right, Steve. Take care, man. Stay safe.
Yes. Yes, I like the feel of Dancing on the Edge. It's upbeat and exciting, but it is here that I came to the definite conclusion that I don't care for Ray Gillen's voice. It's just too Zeppelin-y. It could have been Robert Plant singing these songs, I feel like, and not a Zeppelin fan, so not my thing. Um, but yeah, then of course the ending caught me by surprise enough that I was like, oh wow.
Yep.
All right, moving. This is the last track on side one, or the east side. What is it? Streets Cry Freedom, and number 7 here for me. Felt like this song was laid out in 2 sections. We get the first part, which started off a little laid back, and then eventually there's kind of a pause, or even I guess you could sort of even call it like a little ring out. And then the feel changes up. Eric does this, kind of building snare roll coming in. The song takes off, goes into another gear, and Jake Ely just takes over once again, and we get some more epic work from him. So just a really cool track.
Yep. This one was my number 1. And I love Ray's cleaner voice, the low end voice. And I like how this one, it was kind of chill, it was laid back, and then it kind of slowly picked up as the song went on, but they were still able to keep that chill to it, you know what I mean? And the part in the middle where everything had just kind of cut off, and then it just kicked back in with the awesome drum build up, and then the guitar runs that came in, they were so cool. The bass that kicked in during the solo, doing these like crazy little runs that it was doing, oh, it was just so cool. Like I loved it. It was actually, I had a different one as my number 1 until I heard this one. I was like, no, this one beats that one.
Number 9 for me on this one. Really like the guitar riff here. It's just not something that I feel like the average guitarist would have even thought to do. And that's part of Jakey Lee's thing, is just he comes up with stuff nobody else would have thought of.
Yeah.
And I really liked that they did the chorus later in the song after the rhythm feel had picked up. To do the same chorus again, but with that different feel, is really neat.
Yeah.
And then the solo was weird, not bad, but it was really weird.
So let's go to the west side. So starting off side 2, man, Hard Driver, number 1 here for me. Side 2 starts out just smacky in the face, double bass from Eric on this one. As Jakey is shredding over top of that. Eric just keeping that double bass going throughout the whole entire, pretty much the whole entire song, especially through the verse lines. That just fast galloping. Very nice touch. I love after each of the first line of each of the choruses, you can hear Jake kind of chugging along with that kick drum. Just, again, that whole pocket thing just adds that really cool feel to it. The breakdown section was cool as well, with the guitar harmonies, as Eric is, again, kind of this time backwards. Eric's following him along this time, like on the snare and toms with the guitar riff. So just a killer song. Just amazing. Like, honestly, Jade's song, like, for as short as it was and everything, like that was going to be my number 1. But then once I heard this and a couple of the other tracks, I'm like, okay, this is especially my number 1.
Yeah. This was my number 9. It was so cool with the way that the drums kind of introduced the song, and they were so just, I mean, full of energy, full of that passion, and then it had like a guitar solo right before he started singing, which was really cool. And the solo in this song, I feel like it was the best one so far, but I think this might have been the best one on the whole album.
Yeah.
For me personally. So, yep.
Nice. Number 1 for me as well. The beginning, geez, slow Creatures of the Night, Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, and we were just talking about that with the Live 3. It sounds like the beginning of a Live 3. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one that I was going to make that note about, but
yeah.
I'm glad at least someone else agrees. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the double bass throughout just gave this the perfect groove, and I really like the chorus. This was far and away my favorite chorus on the album. Finally, some background vocals used to just full effect, and it to me just reinforces why there should have been more background vocals and harmonies on the other songs because
Mhm.
when Ray does them, they're perfect. You know?
Yeah.
This is the only song so far, and honestly, I think pretty much for the whole album, where I feel like the chorus really added a layer of excitement to the song,
Mhm.
rather than just kind of leaving it as, oh, he said the title of the song, that must have been the chorus, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I also liked that the song ended with a clean chord overlaid on top of the distortion, which again, it was just unexpected.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, just that little chugging along on that chorus part, just those little things just add so much, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Rumbling Train. This is number 8 for me. We get a little bluesy on this one. Man, again, not to take away anything that Jakey Lee did with Ozzy and everything, but I'm really liking the stuff that he does on this album a lot better, to be honest. It's just catching me in a different way, and yeah, it's just the whole feel and everything is just it's almost like he had a little more control as to what he was playing on this. Is with the Ozzy stuff, maybe he was a bit held back to an extent, but just yeah, I mean, this song just really showcases that, I feel.
Yeah, this was actually my number 2, and it was I had a different one as my number 2 as well until I heard this one, and then I was like, no. It gave me that jazzy, bluesy feel. I could see an older guy with sunglasses on a train and a slide guitar, just going at it, you know. Um, and I feel like that was probably the vibe they were even going for. Um, I can't really pinpoint anything that really stuck out to me because all of it did. All of it stuck out. It wasn't overly complicated. It sounded drum wise, but it was just it added to the song so much because it wasn't overly done. You know,
Mhm.
the solo was amazing and the bass was grooving really well in this song. Like it just all of it. As I couldn't pinpoint one thing that what I like better than another thing because it just all of it was just perfect the way that it all melded together in this song. Like there's not one thing I like better in this song than another thing. So I just um yeah, I love the way that it all flowed together. It's a great song.
Boy, I'm the wrong guy to go after that. Uh, 11. This one didn't hold my attention at all. Felt like too much the same thing over and over, and it just felt like it could have been a Zeppelin song. So again,
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time in rock, there was a lot of that bluesy stuff going on. It just kind of seemed like that was the fad at that time because like you even had Van Halen doing it, and so on and so on. Even Kiss had touches of that on Rise to It and everything. And, so it seemed like that was kind of the thing for a little while. I don't really know why, but thankfully, I mean, I guess thankfully that kind of faded out with rock, but because leave blues to the real bluesmen. But
Yeah.
so going from that, we go to Devil's Stomp, number 5 for me. Um, this one still felt a little bluesy, like they were still kind of sticking with that, but a little bit heavier blues, if that is such a thing. Um, Again, just Eric and Jake's work together is one of the best pockets I have heard so far out of this list of albums that we have done. Um, just when I think it might let up just a little bit at this point, it just grabs me again and grabs my full attention. Just another great track, man.
This was my number 8. Um, I mean, I throughout this whole album, and I didn't really notice it until this song, but when I started to think about it, he had done it quite a bit. I like that his voice just goes back and forth between his clean vocals and then that kind of like grittier tone that he's got, that higher tone. Um, it was a solid drum beat behind when the guitar started to pick up, and that solo just it fit perfectly in this song.
Number 10 for me on this one, super interesting acoustic riff. The heavy verse was pretty cool. The way again, kind of the pocket you were saying, the way the guitar and the bass played off what Eric was doing. The groove was awesome, but at this point, the Zeppelin-y vocal thing is throwing me so bad that it's making it hard for me to enjoy it.
All right, next is Seasons, and this ended up being my number 11. I guess you can call this the ballad of the album, but at least thank God after some of the recent albums, this one wasn't cheesy and full of ridiculous lyrics. It made no sense. It was done in a much, tasteful way. But yeah, just wasn't really in the mood to hear a ballad at this point, and that's why I gave this the least favorite.
Yep, this was my number 10, pretty much for that same reason. I'm always surprised when bands put the slower ballady songs at the end of albums. I feel like it would have been better more in the middle, like around the 6th or the 7th track versus being at the end. I feel like it's a great song, but I just feel like it kind of was starting to sound too much like some of the other songs, and I felt like they were kind of repeating themselves at this point. So I was kind of starting to lose a little bit of interest by this point, just because it's not a bad song, but I had heard it already,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This one was number 4 for me. I liked the mix between the clean guitar and acoustic guitar. I did feel like Ray's vocals fit this song, which I think is part of what popped it up the list for me, because I was starting to get really put out by that. But just like the In Heat album, I feel like this is, just like you said, this is the closest we've got to a ballad, and therefore this definitely should not have closed the album, which for the vinyl version, this would have been the last song.
Right.
What in the world were these guys thinking? Why would you put the ballad, quote unquote, at the end? Doesn't make sense. This would have been perfect right in the middle, just like within Heat, it would have been perfect right in the middle.
Yeah.
But good song overall. Really liked the riff at the end.
All right, so thankfully they added this bonus track, which I guess for the most part, is considered the album closer on most versions you're going to hear. So, Ball and Chain, number 2 for me. Great album closer. The riff was very catchy. I felt like this track really kind of showed the musicianship and the unity of the band as a whole. Like, this one just really put that on display. And, again, I totally agree that it made it that this is the last song you hear, a much better way to end it out on than what Seasons would have been. And if I'm not, excuse me, if I'm not mistaken, this one ends on I think it's just acoustic guitar that sort of fades out, is the way this one ends the album, if I remember right, which was kind of cool. But again, it's that fade thing and not a, definitive ending, but still, I didn't think it was too horrible.
When me and Luke listened to this, they had the whole album on one video on YouTube, and
Oh, geez.
when it ended, like, it cut it off.
Yeah.
And we were sitting here like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
So then we went and actually looked up just this song, and it just cut off for some reason at the end of the full album versus letting the acoustic thing happen, because I was like, there's no way that's actually how that ended. That doesn't make any sense at all, like why it sounded like it just got cut off all of a sudden. But this was my number 11, and only because I feel like they're repeating things they've already done. Like, it's not a bad song at all. It was a great song, but I'm having trouble finding new things to say, because it's just pretty much the same opinion I have of the other songs. Only reason why it was so low was just because it's a great song, but I feel like I'd already heard it. So it was like, I kind of wish there would have been a little bit more of a variety to it to make it, a little bit different, make it stick out a little more for the end of the album.
Right.
Yeah. So other than that, it's a great song, but that's the only reason why it was kind of so low on my list and why it came in last.
This one was also my number 2. I'm a little disappointed this was a bonus track. I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, they probably just the album was a little too long to fit on a vinyl, and they had to cut one. So I mean,
Kind of sad it was this one though.
exactly, yeah. I
Like,
Yeah,
think I like this one way more. This one, I actually argued with myself whether this one or Hard Driver was going to be number 1. I
right.
like this better than almost all the other songs. So yeah, I really wish they would have put this one on the album proper, which I guess it, really they did, but it's disappointed that this was the one they choose to cut out of all of them.
Yeah, and I don't really want to use the term that this saved the album, but it definitely helped end it on the right note instead of ending it with Seasons.
Yes.
yeah.
Ending it with this kind of track.
Yes.
It would be funny if when we start doing this, if we should not start like voting, almost not voting, but picking which song we think should have ended the album.
We kind of always do that, I guess. Just
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do it
not
anyway. So.
not like meaning to. We just all kind of end up doing
Right.
it.
Yeah. Be like, this is what ended the album, but this is what should have ended the
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
we're gonna we're gonna reorder the album and tell them how they
Yeah.
should.
Exactly.
All right, so final thoughts and score on the album here. I give this one a 7. Again, it was such a breath of fresh air coming off of last week's album. Eric's drumming once again shined on this as well. J.K. Lee stood out the most to me at times during this album, even though we were technically focusing kind of more on Eric, being the show, but you just can't deny J.K. Lee, man. Some amazing and catchy riffs and solos. Great. I thought pretty good, cool vocals throughout by Gillen. If you like Zeppelin, then that's probably why you're going to like it. But if you don't, you don't. Hey, this album does not let up from beginning to end. Put this thing on and crank it and feel the walls move from Eric's kick drum. Almost couldn't believe I was saying this, but you know what? I finally found it. This kick drum rivals the Creature's kick drum sound. Yes, I said it. This is 100% recommended listen for me if you haven't heard it before. This was one I couldn't wait to finally sit and give a proper listen to, and it will definitely be played. Excuse me, it will definitely be played again by me. I'm getting so choked up. It was so good.
Overall, I gave this album. Excuse me. And
We're all choked up.
I was gonna say I think we're all choked up.
I won't be.
Yeah.
If you start coughing, I'm a laugh. Overall, I think this is a great album. There wasn't one song that I didn't like on it. I love the production of this album. I mean, you can hear everything very clearly. All the elements came together perfectly. You could hear each instrument. The bass sound was great, which, I mean, most of the time you can't really hear the bass, so it's always a nice breath of air when you can actually hear what it's doing. The guitar solos I felt in spots were kind of overplayed, not exactly in a bad way, but just I wish there would have been a little more variety to them. My biggest issues with the album is that by the end of it, I just kind of felt like they were starting to repeat themselves a little bit on a lot of things. I mean, it felt like his vocals kind of started to do the same thing where he would do some clean vocals and then the gritty thing, and back and forth. The drums kind of felt like they were doing the same kind of beat towards the end, but not in a bad way at all. It just I wish there was, like I said, with the solos, I wish there was a little more variety to it. But even with those couple of complaints, it wasn't until the last couple of songs that I even started to feel like that. The songs at the end are still great songs, but I was just having trouble finding new things to say, just because I would have been repeating myself with a lot of it.
Right.
With what I had already said and already reviewed. And I mean, other than the desire to just hear that variety towards the end, it was a fantastic album. I definitely could hear it again. Like I definitely could play it again. And honestly, I didn't get the Led Zeppelin vibe, but I think it was just because I don't know a whole lot of Led Zeppelin. More with his voice, I was getting the David Coverdale Dio thing, likeness to his voice. Like I wasn't getting the is this Robert Plant? Is that his name? Okay, but I don't really know a whole lot of Led Zeppelin, so I mean, I could see where you guys were coming from when you pointed it out. But for me personally, I didn't hear that at all, just because I don't really know a whole lot of Led Zeppelin. So
There was one point that I noticed a little White Snake too that I almost pointed that out to. I thought
yeah,
at times, but that one song especially I thought had definitely a Zeppelin feel all the way around. But sorry, I was choked up at the beginning. What was your score again?
it was an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I should have gone in the middle of you guys. Oh, jeez.
You
Fine,
are the white tiger this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine, I'll move you over.
Yeah. Yeah, since I've already done the scores, so I know how this turns out. The last thing shouldn't be negative. So I gotta say,
you're me last week.
yeah, exactly, yeah. While I really did enjoy most of this album, I'm way more disappointed than I wanted to be with this. I wish I could stop having preconceptions going into these. I need to, clear my mind a little more, because I feel like this might have ended up a little bit higher for me if I hadn't been so excited going into it. I'm just more disappointed than I want to be. 4.5 overall. The biggest sticking point for me was Ray's voice, of course. I feel like it's important to distinguish somebody who you personally don't like from somebody who sucks. I wouldn't ever in a million years say that Ray sucks. He is an amazingly talented singer, just not my personal thing. I just don't like the Robert Planty way of singing. I never have, just my thing. And this, to me, just went way too far into Zeppelin territory, and didn't like it. Um, Jakey Lee and Greg Chason, or however you say his name, just absolutely made this album for me, though. Their tone and playing was perfectly spot on, and it was usually their parts I was listening to as each song went on. That's what I was interested to hear, was the crazy bass stuff that Greg was doing, and the tone was right. It worked perfectly with the guitars so that you could hear both. The only complaint I have about Jake is that I wish the guitar solos had been longer. Most of the time, it just felt like they were over as soon as they started, and I would have really loved to hear him just go crazy on one. I feel like he didn't really do that. Eric Singer did really well on this album too. I do feel like he was a bit underused. He played for the song, which is as much as you can ask, and probably the better way than trying to show off or anything. I feel like he did a way better job than most drummers would have, but I didn't hear a lot of standout drum moments, and I was hoping for a few more of those.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I wouldn't really call myself disappointed, just kind of hoping for a little bit more. A lot of the songs felt a little flat and boring, and part of that for me was, as I mentioned, the lack of background vocals. When they were used, they really helped, especially a song like Hard Driver. I mean, that chorus just kicked into action, and I wish all of them would have done that. Just wasn't enough. Overall, I wouldn't refuse to listen to this album again. I certainly wouldn't go out and tell everybody this album is terrible, but it's not a must for me personally.
Who who would be another drummer that you think would have fit in on this album? Because for me, I think Jason Bonham would have been a good fit as well.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I think that would have been really, really cool, even almost fitting, seeing as how much of this had a bit of a Zeppelin feel to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, kind of like what with you said. I love the drum sound in this and what he did, but it was, now that you've pointed it out, I kind of wish that there would have been a more standout moments for him, because it was just so good, and the solos that he did, the small little runs and fills and stuff that he did do were great. It just is too bad there wasn't more of them on the album. And yeah, with the solos too, if they would have just been a little bit more lengthier, I think that would have helped, like what I said, with adding the variety to it. If they would have just gone on a little longer, versus always feeling like they just didn't quite do it for me. And I think that's probably why, because they just were pretty short most of the time.
I'd also like to know if somewhere in like all the outtakes that there's a longer version of Jade's song.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Or even if he performed it live somewhere and did a longer version live or something. All right, so as we're getting these final tallies done, not sure how many people we have in here, if any, but if you guys got any questions, Kiss topics, something you want to discuss, go ahead and drop them now. And then we'll get to them after we do these overall tallies. And again, let us know your thoughts on this album. So next week's album, we are back to Ace Frehley, Trouble Walking. Another one I'm looking forward to revisiting. Should be a pretty fun listen. His version of Hide Your Heart, and a couple covers on there, and just another typical Ace album. So looking forward to getting into that next week.
I was actually looking on YouTube just now, and it looks like there's a Badlands rehearsal where maybe they did Jade's song, and then they did Jade's song, and it looks like it goes into Dreams in the Dark. So that might be interesting to check out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look some of that stuff up. So
yeah,
Ace Frehley, Trouble Walking next week, and then we go back to some Tommy Thayer with that Doro Pesh album.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I'm interested to check that out too. And then Kiss My Ass. That should be a fun one. That's always kind of an interesting listen. And then we finally get back into that Peter Criss discography with Cat Number 1, and another Vinnie Vincent Invasion after that one, and then Greatest Kiss will be following those. So again, just stack lineup of albums to come, and hopefully no more stinkers in these lists, but who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
It may happen.
Yeah. Well, we do have the second Gene Simmons solo album coming. So.
Oh God, I forgot. Oh yeah, talk about the biggest stinker of them all.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been more than a decade since I've heard Peter Criss One for All, but my memory of that is that the Gene Simmons album is far better.
Oh no.
That's sad to say.
Yeah.
I have heard a lot of bad things about the One for All album, but send in the clowns. Come on.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready for the rankings?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so both of you will be happy to know this album got a 7.3 average overall, which puts it in second place, right behind The Eternal Idol of everything we've done in Second Coming so far.
Wow.
Not bad.
Yes, that puts it just barely above the first Frehley's Comet album, and also Kiss Chikara.
Wow.
Right in around there, and it's got a ways to go. I don't think there's any way it will end up above The Eternal Idol. The Eternal Idol's got 8.3, so I mean the votes would have to pretty drastically change, I think, for it to end up beating that out. But second place, pretty respectable.
Yeah. I think something will top Eternal Idol eventually, but could be wrong.
It'd be interesting to see which one will.
Right,
if
that
one
one
does.
I can still say at this point that one has been the biggest surprise for me of all the ones that we've done.
Yep.
If I could only go back and listen to one again, it would definitely be The Eternal Idol.
Yep. I think that's the only one that I've gone to Spotify and put that whole album on my, I have a big mix list.
Yeah.
And I put that whole album right after we were done with that episode. I went and put that whole album on my Spotify list because it was so good.
The only thing I could think right off the top of my head that might beat it is Greatest Kiss, but
I could see that.
But again, is that really fair? Because that's a compilation over an album, but
right.
That's just the way this goes, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Indeed. All right, so one tie this week, nothing super important, so we'll go ahead and move on. In 10th place, which for us is last place this time, is Seasons. In 9th place, Dancing on the Edge. In 8th place, Rumblin' Train. In 7th place, Devil's Stomp. In 6th place, Jade's Song. Tied for 5th place, Winter's Call and High Wire. In 4th place, Dreams in the Dark. And our top 3 for this week: in third place, Ball and Chain. In second place, Streets Cry Freedom. And first place, Hard Driver.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, let's try to break that tie right now. Anybody that's still in here? Which one? Winter's Call or
What do you
what was
got?
the other one?
High Wire.
Winter's Call or High Wire? Which one, guys?
Which one? Which one?
I don't know.
If anyone's still in here, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Says we got 3 people. I'm not sure what 3 people they are, but yeah. We'll go ahead and... I noticed I've been kind of following along on my phone. Oh, now we jumped up to 6. Some of the comments that have popped up in our thing that we're looking at have not popped up on my phone, which is very interesting. So yeah, looking pretty good there.
All right. One last chance here before we get out of here. If anybody has any topics you want to discuss real quick or question or something, go ahead and throw them out now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this thing up here in a minute. Again, huh?
Oh, go ahead.
Again, just want to thank you all for stopping in again. I know this was a little different from the usual, but hey, things work, so we're here. We make the announcements.
Yeah.
What?
I'll have a special thing next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Remember the thing I was supposed to bring this week and I forgot at home?
Well, it depends on your memory then.
Depends on your depends.
Yes.
Pretty much.
So how about those videos that Paul Stanley and Bruce Kulick have been putting out?
Awesome.
Yes.
Totally cool, man. I loved the one Paul did with Every Time I Look at You, man. Like hearing him pull that out.
Yeah.
I don't care how it sounds. It's the fact that he did it, and
right.
That's just how it is now. So it was cool to see him do it.
Yeah, and it was cool to hear him talk about revenge a little bit.
Yeah, and Bruce doing the domino lick and everything, and yeah, I like that stuff. Gene needs to get in on that and do some bass lines. Naked City.
Oh
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I've been really enjoying seeing all of that stuff come through.
Yes, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah, still, I know it's not till September, but hard telling if our show is going to end up happening or not that we're supposed to go to.
Right.
Who knows what's going to be happening come that far down the road, but so what do you guys think about the Kiss Me Phantom commentary?
I think it's a good idea.
Take one of these weeks and throw the curveball and do that instead of the album one week.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun.
About that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to thinking we could probably actually do it live instead of pre-recording it because I'll just have the volume down low enough and we're going to be talking over it for the most part anyway.
Right.
So it shouldn't affect us doing it live, I would think. I think it'd be awesome.
I was going to say, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to plan when we want to do it and, make the announcement as soon as possible to give people enough advance and try to get as many people in here to watch and comment on it with us. I think it'd be pretty fun to finally do that.
Definitely.
So let us know what you guys think. Is that something you guys want to see too? So we will get that figured out when we want to do that. It may be sooner than you think. Who knows?
Right now, let's do it. All right.
Yes, all right. Let me load the video here. All right. Well, I think we're going to get out of here then. And again, thank you all for stopping in, hanging out with us. And, things are eventually going to get better. Everyone just keep your head up and, keep yourselves entertained and be smart and safe all at the same time. So, all righty then. Until next week for Ace Frehley Trouble Walking, or will it be? Who knows? We'll let you guys know.
We'll let you know if it was trouble listening.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. See you next week.